All right, what is going on? How y'all doing today on a fabulous Friday here in Uncle Steve's Lounge? Thank you for joining me. As always, appreciate the support, appreciate the love. Everyone chime in. Please hit the like button if you're on Uncle Steve's Lounge in YouTube. Of course, those of you watching on Facebook and Atlanta Bird Gang, we appreciate you joining us as well. It is probably and Super Bowl week is always great. And don't get me wrong, all the pomp and circumstance and everything behind it. But this has always to me been the weekend that is the culmination because it's the birth to go to the Super Bowl. And the championship weekend, I remember being getting ready for the last NFC Championship game the Falcons was involved in. Of course, that was in January 2017 against the Green Bay Packers. And the week before, we beat Seattle, but we had to wait for Dallas to lose, as we figured they would, to Green Bay so we could get the home game. And I just remember, the just organic pumped upness of the championship because you were going to the big game. You were going to play in the last game of the season that determined the championship, even though we wanted a better outcome, but you were playing in that game. So this has always been that week for me where I say, whoo, this is it. Because the Super Bowl stuff is all built in. It's become super commercial, the things they do, the 7-hour pregame to the Super Bowl. While I get it, this is the one where the home fans still have an opportunity to root their team on from their home field, as Kansas City and Philadelphia are going to be able to do. NFC Championship, that's the first one on tap. San Francisco travels to Philadelphia, and I tell you what, I'm still kind of torn in that game. I think my heart, not heart as in I love the team, but I think my rooting interest for some reason is San Francisco. I love the David Purdy, the Brock Purdy story. And we'll get into that in a little bit. And going up against Philadelphia, who's just pretty much from the beginning of the season has been the best team in the NFL, in my opinion. I think they have been super consistent. When Jalen Hurts was hurt, you saw them go down. So you can't really blame Philly for losing a couple of games. Their leader was down. So it's going to be a good game. I know Vegas has, I think in the last I checked, I think Philly was only a 2-point favorite, either 2.5, if I'm not mistaken. So they are expecting that to be a close game. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, you have Cincinnati with Joe Burrow in the game after a extremely convincing, and a lot of people surprised that it was convincing, game against Buffalo last week in Buffalo. Now they travel to Kansas City, where, of course, that was the stage last year when Cincinnati marched into Kansas City and came back from a 3-touchdown deficit to win that game last year. Patrick Mahomes, of course, that's the big story there. Is Patrick going to play? Is he healthy enough to play? I don't know. I think you saw he was in a full participant in Wednesday's practice. I actually didn't even check yesterday's. I'm making the assumption if he was there Wednesday, he's probably there Thursday. But that's just another one that's just going to be hard to figure out, because Mahomes at 100%, I would still only have as a slight favorite over Cincinnati, especially after what they've been doing the past couple of weeks. You can't ignore that winning streak that Cincinnati has, and they've been playing pretty well. The defense played well, of course, well documented that they had to substitute 3 offensive linemen last week, and I don't know whether Buffalo just wasn't ready to play or is Cincinnati that good. The answer probably lies somewhere halfway in between. But I look forward to a good game there, and I just hope Mahomes is at least 75%, because if he is, I think it has the possibility of being a really good game. Kansas City's defense has been slightly better, but they still can be had. Cincinnati's just on one of those rolls right now. Now, their front seven is pretty good. I'm still not putting a lot of stake in Eli Apple if I had to, and the rest of the secondary back there. But again, a good front seven makes your secondary look much better. So I look forward to the championship game. You guys let me know who you think will win. What is going to be the Super Bowl matchup? You tell me what your Super Bowl matchup is. We'll talk about that amongst other things. Well, as we go into another offseason for Atlanta Falcon fans, we have, I don't know, what is everybody talking about? Obviously being facetious. Everyone is concerned about what are we going to do? Just from a standpoint of, this is probably the first year since, I don't know, maybe, probably 2007, I guess. This is the first year that not only do we have the money to go out and make some key free agent signings, we have a decent position in the draft, and we have a questionable situation at quarterback. In other words, a situation at quarterback that is not as simple as we're going right into the year with this particular guy. Now, those questions are going to be answered pretty soon. I think when you get into March, which is the beginning of the NFL business season, and leading into the draft, you're going to have a good idea and a good sense of where this franchise is going. And yes, I know all the ancillary parts of football, folks. I know you have to have offensive line to block. I know you've got to have a defense to stop the other team. You have to have a defensive line. You have to have competent players at the position. But in the world that we live in, folks, I'm sorry, it all starts with quarterback. So we have just had this conversation that has spiraled into almost just proportions that I can't even start to talk about. Is Lamar going to be the quarterback? Do you ride with Desmond? Do you bring in a whole nother free agent to come in? Is there a trade for a quarterback that you know? How much money are we going to spend on the defense? Who are we going to bring in? Do we wait for the draft and draft our future quarterback? I mean, there are so many scenarios, and it's cool. And I know I love it, because if you go on any platform, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, everybody has been talking about the Atlanta Falcons, because they realize the Atlanta Falcons are one of those teams that's kind of a tweener, meaning you're not there, you haven't arrived, but you do have an opportunity to plug and play. You look at what the Jets situation is, you look at Carolina's situation, you look at us, you look at probably our hated rivals down there in the Bayou, all teams that did not have the greatest year this year, but do have space and do have a little money, except for New Orleans, that do have a little bit of money where we can afford to bring in the next quarterback, whether it's Lamar, Jimmy G, whomever, whether they do something with Derek Carr. Derek Carr is, contrary to belief, not a free agent at this moment. His contract is probably too rich for anybody to take on. I think you'll be looking at him getting cut before he would sign another contract. I'm almost positive about that because I think his next number is close to the $40 million that half the Atlanta fan base seems to be scared of. So what are we going to do? And I decided to do this another way instead of going into the, because I think when you get into the question of what's your position on this, I think there are some that get angry almost to a mental state where they feel like their manhood or womanhood is being questioned when you have a different opinion. And I tend to go about it. I try to be a little bit more cerebral about it. Don't get me wrong. I have my emotional moments too. For those of you who saw the 2021 draft, as we drafted the generational tight end at number 4, and I suggested possibly going quarterback. So I have my moments too. But right now, while I'm in my moment of zen, I just want to throw up a lot of those comments that I've been seeing and hearing along the week. And it's on, a lot of it has to do with Falcons, but then some of it are kind of loosely based on what's going on with us at the times. I just thought I'd have some fun. So we're going to do 2 things this week. We'll talk about these topics. And I said top 10, but I actually have more than 10. I have top 10, and then I'm also going to talk about those questions and comments that I've seen in the last few weeks that just has made me scratch my head to the point where all my hair is gone. So let's go ahead and welcome everybody in. Brother Winston, what is going on, man? How you doing today? Gregory is in the house. What is going on? RC Plane Builder, what's up? My brother Alberto on 95 North Falcons Talk. Please, anytime you get a chance to push the light. Let me tell you something, man. I was laughing because one of my good friends, Tidy, he very nicely put a post up suggesting to people to subscribe to the channel, and I appreciate that. And then it just hit on me. It dawned on me as he was saying that, and he wrote the post. Dude, it absolutely costs nothing. It costs you that you already go on YouTube. Y'all know y'all go on YouTube at least 10 times a day. Y'all know y'all go watch videos you're not supposed to watch, like you watching the Uber guy at the Duquesne game try to deliver McDonald's on the field, which is ridiculous. So, hey, while you're doing that, we only ask very kindly that you push the subscribe button. Again, it helps the channel grow. It helps the videos get out there. So we really appreciate you doing that. And while we're talking about 95 North, also Atlanta Bird Gang, make sure you push the subscribe button for him as well. And also in my family is Smitty Sports Machine. Antoine Smitty Smith is always there to give you some of the best Atlanta Falcon content out there. Winston, appreciate you as always supporting the channel. Thank you very much. David Stark's in the house. What's going on, Dave? David says, you got to go with Philly. Hashtag never forget. I hear you. Philly. It's hard to argue any 4 of these teams winning the Super Bowl. I can make a case for all 4. I could also make a case for all 4 losing in the championship game. There has not been a championship in a minute that has had a, where all 4 teams where you could say, not even a fighter's chance, you could say, oh yeah, it's a pretty good team. Philadelphia, again, been consistent all year long. All year. San Francisco hasn't lost since a week after losing to us. I know they lost to there's one game they lost. I think it was Kansas City. They lost the Kansas City game, I think, after us, and they haven't lost a game since. Brock Purdy is 7-0 since taking over. They're arguably the hottest team in the NFL. The other hottest team in the NFL is the Cincinnati Bengals. A little bit of a shaky start, and then got everything pretty much on point going in, and they're probably next to San Francisco, the second hottest team going into the playoffs. And then there's Kansas City with arguably the best player in the NFL when healthy, in Patrick Mahomes. If you have him on your team, there's just, I mean, you can argue you have an opportunity to win the Super Bowl every year if he's healthy. 95 North also says Burrow is 3-0 against Patrick Mahomes. Yes, sir. Everybody has been talking about that. That is some pretty good numbers, but hey, let's see how it plays out Sunday. We'll see. That's the night game that day. He also says Philadelphia versus Cincy for the Super Bowl. Not a bad pick. Facebook user says Lamar to the A. We're going to get on that in 1 second. Lamar to Atlanta. David Stark says he thinks it's going to be Philadelphia against Cincinnati. Don't think Mahomes is completely healthy. That's one of my things, one of the factors going into my picks, and I'll get to my picks near the end. Charles B in the house. What is going on, sir? Glad to have you in. Facebook user here says, I got KC versus Philly in the Super Bowl. False start, what's going on, brother? Say out here in Omaha doing the work. Hey, man, do your thing. Be safe out there, brother. Always, always. Charles B says 49ers versus the Bengals. So you're going for the rematch of a while ago back in the Joe Montana. Well, it was two different Cincinnati games. The legendary game was the one, the John Taylor touchdown. That was Joe Montana versus Ken Anderson. And then, of course, a couple of years later, it was Joe Montana versus Boomer Esiason. But that's definitely a rematch from yesteryear. Winston says $40 million for a franchise quarterback would be great. Wait until next offseason or the other following ones after Herbert and Burrow contracts happen. $55 million and up. And I was going to get, I'm going to get through these comments and we're going to get on that as well. Extremely good point. James, what's going on, cuz? How you feeling out there, brother? Good to see you in Uncle Steve's Lounge as usual. Again, if y'all get a chance, please push the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Jimmy Wayne is in the house. Jimmy says San Francisco versus Kansas City. So Jimmy says even a hobbled Mahomes is good enough to get to Cincinnati. My brother Corliss is in the house. What's going on, man? Now that I look at it, I realize how much Thomas Dimitroff was the poison of the franchise. Look at Philly and San Francisco and how their GMs drafted over the years. I got San Francisco and Kittle being the X factor. And that's one thing. I know a lot of people were quick to talk about Brock Purdy when he goes to Philly. He's going to have all this trouble. You know what? He went up up against a pretty good Dallas team too. Dallas, say what you want about that and his turnovers and stuff like that, but Dallas's defense is really no joke. And he held up fairly well. He took the hits, got back up, made some good throws, obviously some special throws there from special catches, I should say, from George Kittle. But yeah, man, I mean, hey, you never know. You never know. So anyways, let's get to these opinions of the week. I have just been, people have asked me questions. I viewed a lot of posts, looking at the Twitter sphere and all these different things that have just kind of made me laugh. But then some of them make me wonder, because I am truly a proponent of there is no wrong opinion. And say answer. There is no wrong opinion. Right now, there is not a soul, unless they're sitting in Terry Fontenot's living room, that knows how we're going to go about this preseason. So barring us getting a crystal ball or barring us getting a DeLorean from Back to the Future and going into the future to see what we do, there is no one that knows how we're going to do this. So I say let the opinions flow. Let the what ifs fly. Let the fantasies happen. What is the harm of throwing up scenarios, that's gonna help the team. Now I get it that I know some of you are self-proclaimed experts and things like that. And I say that kind of facetiously because we all give opinions and stuff like that. But I think some folks, y'all kind of go a little too far because I laugh when I hear people break it down tick for tick, tat for tat. Yeah, Atlanta needs to build like San Francisco. Atlanta needs to build like Philadelphia. Atlanta needs to build like, I mean, the problem is we build like Atlanta. And I don't know how Terry Fontenot is going to do this thing. I know he's not going to go call John Lynch and say, hey, John, can I copy your absolute blueprint? And for the record, some of that stuff was in place before John Lynch got there. So there's just a lot where I just hear it and I just want to bring it out. So let me go through some of the comments that I have gone through for the last week. And some of these are related and some of them aren't, so bear with me. Of course, this week, the biggest thing has been the defense coordinator of this team should be. And we've gone everywhere from Brian Flores and now Steve Wilks, which I'll talk about in a second, to Vic Fangio, who has been linked to Sean Payton. Just quite a few folks in the running for this defensive coordinator position. That's one of the things, I'm not even going to lie to you. I'm at a point where it really matters what we're going to run. I know we've drafted certain players probably for the scheme that Dean Pease had in place. That's not to say it can't be changed, but it will be interesting to see which way the team goes. I really don't have a dog in the fight as far as it doesn't matter to me as long as whoever it is competent and they can bring a winner to my team. That's my biggest thing. And we'll get back to some of these comments right here. Jimmy Wayne says Steve Wilks or Vic Fangio. Wilks would come only if he can bring a few of his guys. I think that's going to be interesting. Michael's in the house. What's going on, brother Mike? Mike says Wilks or Flores for me. James says, Cousin Steve, it comes down to which defense is better in all the games. He's talking about the Super Bowl game. Absolutely. So, yeah, so I'm going back to that. The DC of this team should be. So, again, if you have a favorite in mind, go ahead and put it down there for that. Speaking of Steve Wilks, we're talking about that situation yesterday, and I've heard this comment. Steve Wilks should have been given the Carolina job after going 6-6. I get the emotion behind Steve Wilks in a lot of ways. I do get it. He did take a team that basically started 4 different people this year and had them playing decent to respectable. But there is also something to be said about, okay, he went 6-6. And I know folks are going to say with this roster and all of that, which is legitimate, but you really look at it, Carolina has a nice roster. I'm kind of surprised they didn't do better than what they did. There was a stretch during the season that I think Carolina was playing better ball than anybody. I'm not sure if that all had to do with Steve Wilks. Now, it was his leadership, and it was under his watch. But there's a part of me that's like, oh, yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of like, I'm not sure if I would have been so quick to hand over the keys. I think a lot about what happened here a couple of years ago in a different sport with the Atlanta Hawks, and they got rid of Lloyd Pierce and brought in Nate McMillan and made the magical run to the Eastern Conference Finals. and people were emotionally invested, and there were folks there was actual thought of still changing the coaches, and yet we stayed with Nate, and things didn't quite work out like we wanted to the last 2 years. Yes, winning seasons, but just barely. And now everyone, of course, is paying attention to the dysfunction going on right now. This is not saying Steve Wilks is not a candidate for a head coaching job, but I don't know. It's almost one of those things where you kind of have to wonder, is there something else behind the scenes? I know there's a lawsuit going on with Arizona about how he was wrongfully terminated for that job. And sometimes, folks, when you do stuff like that, sometimes you kind of become a little bit of what's the word I'm saying? It's not exactly blackballed, but it is one of the things I'll say, do we really want to deal with that? The possibility, and we can say, a lot of things about how it went down, but there are maybe some coaches and some organizations that might say, well, you know what, I want to reserve the right that if you suck, I can fire you and you not think it's discriminatory. I look at what my man did in Denver. Nathaniel Hackett went up there and pooped in the bed, and he's gone, and I don't see anybody else going to bat for him. So I don't know. I mean, Steve Wilks, great job. Maybe he wins the division. Maybe we're having a different conversation, but I don't know. It's just kind of weird. All right, let's go. This is actually a literal quote I saw somebody say. I'm tired of talking about Lamar Jackson. And I think the post went on to say he's not on the team, blah, 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 blah. Got news for you. Hate to be the bearer of bad news. Until Baltimore tenders, well, they're going to franchise Lamar Jackson. Let me get everybody ready for that, because there are going to be some people that say, aha, it's a franchise tag. He's going to get franchise tag no matter what, folks. It's a matter of whether it's an exclusive tag, which means hands off. Then we have to think about something else, or whether it's the non-exclusive tag, which means Baltimore is saying, hey, we'll listen to any kind of trade compensation. That's what we're waiting on right now. If you're not only a Falcon fan, if you're a Jets fan, if you're a Carolina fan, I mean, look, at this moment, and this is his year, at this moment, he's the only free agent going into the season that is considered on the top 10 as far as talent is concerned. So yeah, I'm telling you, if you're not wanting to hear about Lamar Jackson, you might want to turn off your TV, ESPN, your social media, and all of that, because you're going to hear about it. Another one I've heard so much, I don't want to go back to cap hell. Folks, we're not in cap hell. Even if you sign Lamar, and I don't know how many times you have to explain this, and let me explain something else to you. Everybody keeps talking about Lamar. I've heard people talking about getting Deron Payne. I'm talking about people getting James Bradbury. Folks like that. Let me tell you something, folks. Deron Payne ain't coming here for $10 million a year. Deron Payne won't get paid. And for people that are thinking, let me go get some of the best at some of these positions, one, they're going to ask for the most money. Two, they're probably going to say, sweeten the pot, because I'm coming to Atlanta. I'm not coming to Kansas City, Cincinnati, Philadelphia, where these guys are not only perennial winners for the moment, but places that I know I'm a plug-in play person. I'm a plug-in to help. When you're coming to Atlanta, you're coming in here to be a bona fide leader of this team. You're coming in here right now to save this team from themselves right now. Deron Payne, you're not coming in here to plug a spot and say, okay, we're perfect. No, you're coming in here to take the responsibility of leading this Falcons team to another level. So folks, we're not going back to the days of negative cap. I don't care how you do it. Even if you sign Lamar, even if you don't sign Lamar, even if you go out and trade for a quarterback, no matter what we do, if you buy 5 positions on defense, folks, nobody's going back to cap hell. So I just think that's something that just gets overblown just because people hear a lot of money. And contrary to belief, and Winston brought it up a few minutes ago, folks, the salary cap is going up, up, and up. The $50 million you're paying for a quarterback now, in 3 years, if he or somebody else were to get in that position, dude, they're gonna be $50 million gonna seem like a bargain. Remember how we cringed when Matt Ryan got that $30 million, and for about maybe 3 weeks he was the highest player because Aaron Rodgers did a contract after that and he was the highest. And then only a matter of 2.5 years later, you had Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, and all those folks getting $40 million. But only 2 years ago, we were like, no, Matt doesn't deserve 30. And I'm looking at all the quarterbacks now who are getting $30 million. The Derek Carrs, the Kirk Cousins, the Jared Goffs. Those folks that by no means anyone is saying are elite. But that's quarterback money right now. So just, the focus on how much we spend, I'm sure Terry is not going to put us in that situation again. I don't think he is, personally. Let's see. RJ, what's going on, bro? How you doing today? False start say the thing is this with Lamar, it requires the kitchen sink. And after drafting poorly after our Super Bowl run, to mortgage that is very scary. The only thing I caution against that, that's a different regime. I don't want to absolutely just think that just because that happened under Terry, under Thomas Dimitroff, that's going to happen under Terry. I don't think so. Winston says Steve Wilks for DC, do a good job for 2 years and he'll be up for head coach somewhere. That's probably true. Mike says, "Oh, you went to Puerto Rico for your wife's birthday. I could have bet." You know what, Mike? And it was as many pictures and everything we took. It was such a kind of a quickly developing trip, and it was short. We were only there we got in, I think, Thursday evening, and we left super early Sunday. And I apologize. You're absolutely right. Because I sure could have met up with you, and my apologies. Next time we go down there, I promise you, my friend, I'll look it up if we could share some post office stories down the line. That's my bad. Rusty in the house. What's going on, sir? Say, if we don't get Lamar, my plan B is to trade up and grab Will Anderson. I get Micah Parsons vibe. Make it happen, Terry. Fudge them picks. I have no problem with that. And again, another scenario that might not be, the plan B for me, but that's creative. You can go get Will Anderson. It's going to take something now to go up. You're going to have to probably give a couple of picks away. But, John Harris, you become a pariah if they don't like you. Right. Absolutely. Jimmy says, if Lamar comes here, we better make the playoffs. At least if you lose with Ritter, people expect it. You can't do that, though. You can't do that. That's the one thing I disagree. And I'm not saying with you, Jimmy, personally, but I think there are a lot of people that this is how we get stuck in the same old Atlanta mentality, if you ask me. Because you're right. There are a lot of folks that say, if we invest this money in Lamar, man, I'm going to be ready to boo him on the first interception. If he lose 2 games in a row, I'm going to say, see, y'all should have never done and whatever. So you're meaning to tell me if Ritter falls on his face next year, or if Ritter doesn't develop like he should, he gets a bye? No. I don't care that he's a third round pick that was a rookie last year. You're saying going forward, this is your guy. Not telling you he should develop into Mahomes or develop into Joe Burrow, but I am saying the expectation is the same. You get no pass. You're going to be the quarterback of our franchise. You're going to be held to the standard that Lamar, that Matt Ryan, that Mike Vick, that Chris Chandler, that anybody else that comes in here. Your goal is to win a Super Bowl. And as we watch the likes of Brock Purdy go to the Super Bowl, it does. You think about that. No, the expectation is for you to win. David says, I'm more in the thought process of cooler heads prevail and Biscotti gets the other owners out of his ear and Lamar gets out of his feelings and they hammer out a long-term deal. And that could happen. And you know what? I'm not saying it won't. The only thing with all the good-natured stuff that Baltimore put out is 200%. 200% Lamar is staying. We're keeping Lamar, blah, 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 blah. Only person you haven't heard from is Lamar. And Baltimore does have the right to put that franchise tag on him. And so, again, everybody, not just in Atlanta, they're doing this in New York too, folks. When they're not thinking about Aaron Rodgers now, since Nathaniel Hackett was hired as their OC, they're thinking about it. They really are. Hey, Aurel, what's going on, man? How you doing today? He says, when Arthur Blank was making everyone Falcon for life, did the contracts make sense at the time? See, and hell, that's one of the things that I was talking about. And I talk about a lot of times when I'm on. Arthur Smith is nothing but a guy who wants that feeling back. I think there are so many people that fault him for a lot of things and, you made a mistake by doing this. Dude, this guy emotionally wants this team to win. And we all make financial mistakes as far as overspending for something or overstating a value for something, whether it be a car, whether it be a house or anything like that. And in this particular case, it's about the value of players. Think about what's going on right now in Dallas. Dak Prescott was courted all off season a couple of years ago. Oh, man, they better sign Dak. He's the best thing going. Y'all better sign Dak. He's going to be all of that. Oh, they franchise him. Is he going to play? Is he going to do this? And then they end up signing Dak for 40 plus on the average. Now they're talking about trading. It's a fickle business, folks. And if we do that with Lamar and you have to end up trying to dump him, guess what? There's going to be a taker. Barring him just falling flat on the face, it's going to be a taker somewhere. And on the flip side, we could play the game of stick with Ridder and build everything around him. Unless Ridder doesn't turn out to be what we think. And the same fan base that was saying, save Ridder, is going to be the same fan base as we need to do something different. Do it, Terry. Sean, what's going on? Sean says the cost is too much, Lamar Jackson. For who? I mean, I hear you. The cost might be too much for you. Cost might be too much for the Falcons. We are hurt, damaged from the stuff that went down with Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. Signed for all the money, and then we saw Matt basically his ability to help this team win. Maybe not the ability to actually function as a quarterback, but at least there were the days that he was functioning as a quarterback to help us win. That went South. And for those that, and there were some that I don't even call them out. There are people that still come in these streams today. Same ones. Oh, they're going to regret the day they got rid of Matt Ryan. As I see Matt Ryan last week practicing for his next gig. And it costs for what? What's too much? Starting quarterback is going to be 40, 50 minutes. Unless you luck up and hit on a quarterback in his rookie deal, which we could have had a quarterback on their rookie deal 2 years ago. Unless you luck up and do that, you're probably going to have to pay. So you make the decision. You can lean on the third round pick that you said has some special attributes, which I hope he does. Or you can try your best, go out there. You ain't got to lock him up for 10 years. We're not talking about a Matt Ryan 14-year career. That's where we kind of messed up with that. I think we should have made a decision 4 years ago instead of last year. So, you got a choice. But too much is in the eye of the beholder, brother. Berto says, Tracy Rocker for me is a DC, but I would love the duo of Al Holcomb and Steve Wilkes. Rusty says that man went to Puerto Rico for his wife's birthday. Man, Mike is a good dude, man. Mike is a former postal guy. Leave Mike alone. Mike is good money. Mike is good money. I would have definitely checked out Mike. John says, boy, we got some Hawks talk for the group when the time comes to discuss it. It's a mess reminiscent of the Spirit group. Yeah, I'm not getting into all that. I'll say that for y'all and y'all Hawks talk. Dixon Way, what's going on? The Dixon Way is always on, and I'm pretty sure, I think the next game is Saturday, tomorrow, for the Hawks. Y'all make sure y'all check out Larry and his wife on the Dixon Way. He said, I'm not giving up Grady, AJ, and the second round picks for the next 2 years for Lamar Jackson. That type of trade is a trade that is one quarterback back away from the Super Bowl. Now, I will say this. I saw that meme going around, and this is the part I love. I love sometimes when we as a fan base get triggered over somebody's rumors. Again, folks, everything that's being said, there is nothing that has come out officially. These are folks' thoughts, opinions. I'm going to tell you what's not going to happen. We're not trading Grady and AJ and a number one pick to get Lamar Jackson. That's not happening. Somebody threw it out. You know what they did? They threw it out on one of those draft simulators and halved it out. That wasn't an Adam Schefter. That wasn't a Ian Rappaport. That wasn't Chris Mortensen. That was somebody that said, well, this is how they don't have to give away 1 or 2 draft picks. They give away Grady and give. That's what that was. That's opinion. We got to calm down from that. All these things are opinions. These are opinions. These are not facts. I hate when I see people get triggered over opinions. It's okay to have one. And to disagree with one is fine. Folks, this is an opinion. And I saw the same thing, so I'm not dogging you. I'm saying, but these are opinions. Dixon, he said that's a Herschel Walker trade that would be foolish and set the franchise back. Yeah, it's not happening. That was not a GM coming out and saying, here, look at my offer. And plus, on top of that, you have to figure, you better wait to see what Baltimore does. All of this is a moot point if Baltimore puts an exclusive rights tag on him, because Lamar get $45 million off the rip. And everybody is hands off. So Mike said, it's cool. You had a lot going on. I'm only 45 minutes away from San Juan. And, the funny thing is, Mike, when I went, and we got there at night, and what's it called? Coronado Coronado. I think the whole thing was Coronado everything down that strip. So I don't know if you're familiar with that, but we went down there and we had a great time, man. Yeah, and again, I apologize. Yeah, if I had an opportunity, I'd go up there. And just like Rusty, if I was in Charlotte, brother, if I was up there, I'd come up there and see you too, and see you in the little bundle of joy. So I trust me, if it's somebody that I rap with, I'm gonna definitely make sure I try to at least call you up or see you. John Harris said, I want to ask, what would be a problem if we brought Cam in as a veteran? Because there won't be many vet quarterbacks out there that will come here and play. Plus, he ran a similar system in Carolina. Now, my personal opinion, I know there are a lot of people that were saying bring in Cam. So I hear you. One, I don't think I'm not sure if Cam even wants to be a quarterback anymore. I see Cam out there having the time of his life, smoking cigars, skating in the skating rink, and making various visits on podcasts. I'm not sure if Cam seems to be financially comfortable. He seems to be enjoying himself. I'm not sure if he even wants the drama anymore. I'm not sure he does. Now, maybe he doesn't. I don't know the man, but he seems to be enjoying his life. He does. I'm not sure if Cam is the guy I want mentoring my young quarterback either. Now, that's just a personal opinion. I don't know. I'm just not sure if I would want him doing that. Cam might be the best guy in the world off the field or whatever, but I'm just not. I'm not sure I'm feeling that. King, what's going on? King said Dak is being drugged through right now through the media. Absolutely. A couple of years ago, Dak is a top 5 quarterback. He absolutely is elite. He's going to take Dallas to the next level. 2 division losses later, they talking about trading Dak, which I don't think they are. But, you know. Jeremy, what's going on, man? How you feeling, brother? Outside of quarterback, how set are we as a title contender on a percentage basis? Feels like we overachieved and surprised people last year. I just don't see us as being close yet. Honestly, I put us at 55% to 60% ready to compete for a title, with a top-tier quarterback about 70. Running back, check. Wide receiver, check. Not the other side. Tight end, check. Offensive line, check. Half of your cornerbacks, check. I think that's about all I can check on. So, yeah, 60% is fair. And I'll even take it a step further, Jeremy. It depends. You say a top-tier quarterback, it depends on who the top-tier quarterback is. Lamar is definitely a top 10 talent quarterback. In this offense, the way it was run last year, I would probably up that maybe to 75% when you start talking about achieve. But I understand what you're saying. We're not in a plug-in now mode. I will say this. If you bring in one of those quarterbacks that elevates everybody else, and the list is not that long, folks. I think right now it's AFC heavy when you're talking about Mahomes, despite last week, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Herbert, Lamar Jackson. Maybe at this moment, Jalen Hurts. Those are the quarterbacks that I can see that the teams can kind of rally around support for that particular person. So, we'll see. Sean says the price to trade for him, too much in my opinion. And again, I don't have a doubt that again, if you're talking about that trade that they were talking about with Larry, when he was talking about Grady, AJ, whatever. Again, folks, those are painted on memes. That's somebody's dream scenario. That's somebody just trying to get riled up. And it worked because a lot of folks were No, the Falcons, you would be stupid, blah, blah. Terry Fontenot has not come out and said he trading Grady and AJ. All of these are hypothetical. Don't get twisted. Scooter in the house, what's going on, man? Said the Falcons not giving out baseball contracts. Hey, man, they're not, but they better give out something to help this team. Larry also says, I want Lamar like everyone else, but not to mortgage our draft future. I don't care about the money more than the draft capital. The best example is ATL. The Hawks giving 5 years worth of draft picks for DeJounte. Oh, yeah. Basketball is a much different animal, though, than when you're talking about football. Sometimes you can get that one person in basketball that can change that whole thing. I think DeJounte is one of those guys that's talented enough to make us forget about those draft picks. He's shown flashes, and once the Hawks get their act together, I don't know whether that's going to be with McMillan or not. I have a feeling that you're going to see the greatness of DeJounte Murray because they're going to have to sign him here in a second. I don't think you make the trade and not sign him. David says the Grady AJ talk was from the good old anonymous GM. And that's the thing, David. I think people were, and you know, it's funny. I guess, I don't know, maybe this social media thing is so weird because you get people that will see that picture. You ever get those posts where people might say something and say, Tom Brady to the Falcons for $5 million. And then you get the normal people that go around, oh man, you're drunk, fake news, blah, blah. But it's always one that says, is that true? For real? And that's all it takes for that one person to believe. If you get 1 to 2 people to believe, that's how it becomes a vicious rumor, I guess. Larry says, oh, I thought it was the GM talk. Nah, that throwing against the wall. That's exactly what they're doing. That's doing that stuff there. Larry said, at least the Hawk talk to me. I'm definitely on top of that situation. Brother, you absolutely got it. Y'all make sure y'all turn into Larry. As far as I'm concerned, brother, they should bring back Dominique. So you're absolutely right. I'll let you guys have that. John says, tell you what, if Frisco pulls this off this weekend, the Shanahan mystique gets a major pump up. Remember, a rising tide floats all boats. I'm gonna tell you something. That the hate for Kyle Shanahan is understood here in the Atlanta area. I get it. Everyone is, still not forgiving him for what he's doing. But I'll say this too. Kyle Shanahan has been in 3 of the last 4 NFC Championship games. We can sit here and get mad about who the Falcons think they're going to get, if we're going to do this, do that. But Kyle Shanahan, aside of a blip year, the year that everybody and their mama got hurt on the team, has been in 3 of the last 4 NFC Championship games. I know he didn't win the Super Bowl, folks, but you can't get to the Super Bowl unless you get to the playoffs. Folks better get out of their mind about how he hurt everybody. He's a choker and whatever. You know what I'd rather be? I'd rather be in that conversation this weekend instead of talking about who we trying to get at quarterback or who we trying to build around this quarterback. When you get into that defeatist mode, man, where, oh, Kyle Shanahan not going to do it. He will. So what? Kyle Shanahan is there. And at least he has the opportunity. That always baffled me. Can't win the Super Bowl unless you get to the NFC Championship. And out of your Falcon mind, what is going on, man? How y'all doing today? Make sure y'all check them out. Out of your Falcon mind, John and Mike, always doing their thing. And they had a very good show this week. Make sure y'all go back in the archives and check that out. I want to say, oh, Jesus. Was that Wednesday? Make sure. I think it's is it Wednesday or Thursday? It wasn't Thursday. It's Wednesday. Please come tell me what time the show is on, y'all. And I apologize. I was literally listening and commenting on it, but as y'all can see by the gray hair, sometimes I forget those things. Michael says, "What would you do at number 8, Mike? At this moment, I'm still under the defensive skill. I'm not a fan of getting a quarterback. I think my eyes have leaned towards Myles Murphy from Clemson. Get somebody, probably one of the best rated rushers coming out this year, and see if you can build from there. Kind of build them with your rotation of Ebiketie and the guys that you have here now. I think that's, if you ask me today, January 27th, that would be my choice." Larry says, "With the weakest schedule in the NFL next season and a good draft and free agent moves, we could be in contention. Lamar fits the offense. I'm not worried about his skill, just the cost." And like with everything costs. And let me even go further. If you go to plan B and say that, well, plan A is I'm throw it out there. Right now, plan A is Desmond Ridder because he's here. That is plan A. Plan A is Desmond Ridder and go out there and spend. Let me explain something to y'all. What if you spend that money and Daron Payne isn't that guy? I keep hearing everybody talk. Matter of fact, let me go back to my real quick. Let me go back because this is my other thing that we were talking about. Let's build the trenches. This is my. I almost think somebody puts this in, and it's not anybody in particular. So if you said this in your time being, I get it. But this has been going on for, I don't know, since Matt Ryan was here, since he was a rookie. Let's build the trenches. Since the Falcons haven't been sacking people, I get it. I am a proponent of building the trenches. The trenches include the offensive lineman we drafted 3 years ago, the offensive lineman we drafted last year or 2 years ago, the defensive lineman that we drafted for the last 2 years, even though Marlon Davidson didn't work out. It's not like we're not trying. And in some cases, like the Falcons did this year, when you kind of do that basement cheap diving for cheap labor, I should say, you come up with a diamond in the rough or two. You do have to build the trenches in order to win. You do. But I tell you what, it does behoove you to have some talent behind you at quarterback. Now, I know what's coming next, and that's why this is one of my statements. If Brock Purdy can do it, so can Desmond Ridder. Desmond Ridder listen, I'm going to tell you something. Again, he's on the roster. So I'm a fan. He's cool. I got his back. As long as he's here, I got his back. I hope he defies all and turns out to be the greatest quarterback in Atlanta Falcons franchise history. But as of January 27th, 2023, he played in 4 games. And you can argue in two and a half of those games, he was playing a really good defense. Man didn't throw a touchdown until the first string of Tampa Bay's defense left the field in the last game of the season. He showed some potential. I love the throws he threw to Drake London. Much better than we were getting out of Marcus Mariota, who was somebody we chastised all season. I loved his ability to move around in the pocket. I do. And he's pretty good for a just starting out guy. But for a franchise, and again, y'all speak for yourself. I'm speaking for me at this moment. I've watched the last 5 years turn into kind of a joke from where we were at the time. 2016 and 17, we were kind of on the verge of being a team that could have really let this thing work itself out. You had a young defense. You had Matt Ryan in his prime, which still might not be just above, might barely be above average. But you had Matt Ryan in his prime. And you had an opportunity to build on. And that didn't work. But that doesn't mean you don't try different things. Yeah, Brock Purdy, of course. He had 2 pretty good wide receivers on his team. And I say pretty good. Y'all know Deebo Samuel was all pro last year. You got George Kittle, all-world tight end. You got arguably one of the top 3 running backs in your backfield. You have a defense that I don't even need to mention how great they are. Brock Purdy just don't have to mess it up. See, Desmond Ridder is in a little bit of a different situation. Desmond Ridder is going to have to be the guy in order for us to get better. Because even with all the cap space we're talking about, you can't buy a wide receiver, probably 2 defensive tackles, according to some 1, according to some 2 linebackers, possibly another cornerback, a left guard, and rectify the situation with McGarry at right tackle. So all this money that people are talking about, oh, you can't give all that to Lamar. You might want to give it to somebody who can do some extra things as opposed to you got to hit on 6 people. Now, that's not to say it can't happen. If you go a little further south down to Florida, Jacksonville made a slight and a similar move. They had a nice little run at the end of the season where you saw the potential, hopefully, for the future. Now, hoping that builds up. But every situation is not different. Trevor Lawrence is going to be a cool. Trevor Lawrence threw 4 interceptions, dusted off, and came back and threw 4 touchdowns. Every quarterback can't do that. So give him a lot of credit. I think his star is still going to be on the rise. You got to have somebody special at quarterback, y'all. Other misconceptions. Arthur Smith doesn't want to win. He wants to sell tickets. This is because people are thinking we're thinking about getting Lamar Jackson. There are some of you that didn't live during the other regime here, the Rankin Smith folks, that regime, the ones that didn't want to re-sign Deion, the ones that didn't let, even though the Brett Favre thing was a little bit of a different story, but didn't have the folks enough to look on there and say, oh, that's a special cat over there. A lot of y'all didn't live through that. I'm not trying to make myself more knowledgeable or anybody else, but I will tell you that you would be miserable if you went through that particular time. Arthur Blank says, you know what? That dude won for me. I want to pay for them. I want to pay to keep their services here because at one time they made this franchise, they made this fan base and this franchise fun, this franchise a winning franchise. And I would rather have somebody to make a mistake and invest in trying to do that than to just sit on your hand and say, no, we're just going to keep all the money to ourselves and not do anything. Arthur Blank is the best owner in the NFL to me. Could care less what you say at that point. That's my opinion. And I think they've made some mistakes. They've made some mistakes, but I think his heart is in the right place. He signed Matt Ryan to that contract because he thought Matt would get back to the Super Bowl. He signed Devontae Freeman to that contract because he thought he would help him get back to the Super Bowl. We re-signed Julio Jones because he thought we would get back to the Super Bowl. A lot of us make dumb investments or mistaken investments. I don't even want to say dumb. Make mistakes, maybe bad timing investments. And that's all that happened. This is one of my other funnier ones that I've seen. I've literally seen this, which is really has kind of got a little bit of steam, which is really weird to me. Let's bring Matt Ryan back as a mentor. Now, y'all refresh my memory. Didn't Matt just get traded out of here less than a year ago? Hadn't even been a year yet. But there are some folks out there that actually think Matt Ryan wants to come back to the place that they just told him, you're not our future. But Matt is going to come back with a gosh darn it, golly gee whiz, good old attitude and say, hey, I'll help mentor the future of him. The guy that y'all basically said is going to be replacing me. I just don't know where that comes from. I don't. It's funny to me. I just heard that. This one right here, I'm not even gonna lie to you. I've seen this. I'm not even opposed to doing this. Let's draft all defense. That doesn't bother me. We have sacked the quarterback basically once every 2 games. Like once every 2 games, we sack the quarterback, while the rest of the league is on a 1.5 to 2 sack game average. And I know the average is probably more than that. We don't sack the quarterback. We don't put pressure on the quarterback. Matter of fact, and I'll take it even one step further. I would draft all linebackers and people on the defensive line. Because guess what? Somehow, if you get pressure on the quarterback, it makes your cornerback's job that much easier. Gotta put some pressure on these guys. Got to. We didn't do that this year. We didn't. Another thing I've seen that I might agree with, might not. Arthur Smith is not the right coach for this team. Now, this year, it's not going to be a lot of excuses because one way or the other, whether we go with a new quarterback or whether we go with plug and play with a lot of different pieces for Desmond Ridder, the stopwatch starts for Arthur Smith game 1. Whatever that game is going to be, Arthur Smith is on the clock. I think last year, after the Mariota debacle and how that switch went about, you saw frustration out of Arthur Smith for the first time. I'm not talking about little catty, smart, alecky type of answers, but you saw the frustration in him for the first time around that time of the year. Because he had to change his narrative from the guy he brought in to say, see, I told you so, to the quarterback that it almost sounded like you might not even want to draft. So Arthur Smith is definitely on the stopwatch. No quarterback making over $40 million have ever won the Super Bowl. I'm gonna give y'all a couple of years on this one. That's like everybody's favorite thing. They had the one chart where you had all the X's on and you just had Mahomes' name up there and blah, blah, blah. Folks, we at a different era. We just stopped paying quarterbacks maybe about a decade ago, where the rookie quarterbacks couldn't come in and make the millions and millions of dollars. See, that stat would be distorted if I think it stopped after Sam Bradford, whoever it was. And now you got the rookie quarterback. Unless you have somebody super dynamic right now, I think it's Joe Burrow, who still hasn't won one, make it clear, but he's gotten there. You had Russell Wilson, who, again, like Brock Purdy, kind of lucked into a situation where he had a lot of help around him. Doesn't happen all the time, y'all. It doesn't. But that will change. That will change. And this one right here, I love it. I do. I love this idea too. Let's give the job to Desmond Ridder and build a team around him. I would love for that to be the way we go about doing this. I would love it. I would. But I want to make sure Desmond is the guy. You are throwing in, and people act like, oh, we'll deal with another losing season or two just to see him develop. Okay. Okay, oh, patient ones. Because, boy, I wish I could take receipts on that one. All the folks that come up and, oh, yeah, you got to give them time. You got to let them develop. You got to let them. I'm glad y'all got that much time to develop. Philadelphia, again, I keep using them as the example. Philadelphia won a Super Bowl in January of 18. Won a Super Bowl. Got rid of everybody and was right back in the playoffs in January of 22. That's less than 4 years. The Falcons have not even been over 500 since 2017. Philly did all of that and are back in the NFC championship game, and actually 2 years in a row in the playoffs. So for all the development and it takes time they're doing it up in Philly. They stripped that team down. You had a couple of veterans that stayed, but not many. You got Kelsey, you got Fletcher Cox. But they tore that team down and rebuilt it up. Go look at the roster that was in the Super Bowl and the roster that's on the team now. A lot of different faces. And they did it. So when I hear the Desmond thing, I'm like, okay, I want it to happen. I do. But I'm just saying, weigh this whole thing out. I hope every day Terry and Arthur are having a conversation with the pros and cons. That's all I'm saying. Have that conversation. I love this one right here because I see people do this on posts all the time, and I saw somebody going at somebody with Twitter. I'm right about what the Falcons can do because I played and coached football. I saw somebody on Twitter that was, I went to a D1 school. I got a chance to play in the CFL, blah, blah, blah. So I know what I'm talking about. I said, okay. If you're on Twitter talking about what you did and you're not on an active team and you're not an active coach in college or pro, you are right on the level with me as far as your ability to guess what they're going to do. It's folks on ESPN that I sit on there and I say, yeah, you played, you did this, but you're not on that team and you're not coaching right now. You don't know. It was funny. I speaking of things like that, I heard, I don't know if y'all heard that on 92.9 yesterday, Brian McFadden, he put it out there. He said Patrick Peterson lives in Atlanta. I think that was on call on Dukes and Bell. Said Peterson put it out there right now. I say if Lamar came to Atlanta, he'd be interested in coming. And I just thought that was, I only bring that up to say I was tying it into the form of football and all of that. That's cool. So that's another way having Lamar would kind of help out. So my other favorite comment, y'all just want the next Mike Vick. Yeah, minus the off the field stuff. Yeah, I do. I'm not gonna lie to you. I do. I want the excitement. I want the 2 playoff years out of 4. I want the ability to be in every game. Yeah, I do. I absolutely do. Because when you had that guy in there, this was one of the go-to places to be. The go-to, you saw. I'm gonna tell you how you can know. Go to Amazon or go somewhere and try to buy a certain item with a team. During that time of the Mike Vick excitement, you could go buy any item that had Falcons on it. During the Matt Ryan era, even after he won the Super Bowl, you couldn't get a Falcons umbrella. You couldn't get a Falcons bed sheet. You can get a Dallas. You can get a Pittsburgh. You can get a New England. You can get a Green Bay. You can get a Chicago. With relevancy. Relevancy is important in sports. We aren't relevant. Nobody cares about the Falcons. When people go back, I'm not even sure it's about the individual as much as Mike Vick, but you got to say what it is. He made us relevant. Did Matt Ryan make us relevant? Maybe. Julio Jones made us relevant. Mike Vick made us relevant. Because he was an exciting quarterback who put eyes on the product. And people can bash that if they want to. But I'd rather be talked about in sports for attempting to win rather than be talked about what they're going to do this year because we don't have any other choices. That's my opinion. I think I ran out of statements, didn't I? I think that was it. And that went over 10, so I'm sorry. Let me go back here to John Harris says, tell you what, if Frisco pulls this up. Oh, I did that one already. Let me go back up here. I apologize, y'all. Got caught up here. David says, those of us that want Lamar, me, see him as a force multiplier who covers a lot of deficiencies for the team. We have not had that at the quarterback position ever. It's a very good point. Very good point. John Harris says, hey, Steve, watch it. You're going to pull out of the mocks out of business with that talk. Oh, man. Millie Mills is in the house. What's going on, brother? Say Dak is the black Tony Romo. But you know what, though? Let me ask y'all a question. I had a discussion about this. Up to this point, and don't tell me he's been to the playoffs more because he won just as many playoff games, I think, as Tony, and maybe Dak may won one. So far, has Dak exceeded Tony Romo? Dak Prescott got that job because Tony Romo got hurt. See Bledsoe to Brady. But obviously with a different outcome because Brady went on to greatness. But I made the argument that Tony Romo might have been forced out a little early. I thought Tony Romo was pretty decent. I don't think I saw Tony Romo make as many mistakes as I see Dak make in crunch time. But I don't know, y'all. Y'all gonna have to convince me that Dak Prescott was a better option than Tony Romo. And I know eventually they would have had to get there, but I don't know. It's just interesting thought. Larry says, I like DeJounte, but a lot of our dysfunctional front office and bad coaching might push him to leave in free agency. The Hawks' first priority is to sign DeJounte Murray. Absolutely. I agree with that too. Larry also says, man, I was sick to my stomach watching Kyle Shanahan run the ball in the fourth quarter. I wish he would have done it in our Super Bowl. I put a post up as Frisco was running on it. Because Dallas, the one thing I'll say about Dallas, they blitz first quarter, second quarter, and third quarter. In a game that they're dominating, that's cool. In a close game, you're going to tire out your defense. And at that fourth quarter, when they needed McCaffrey to make those runs and Mitchell to make those runs, it showed. And they got tired really quick. So, that's something to think about when you start talking about what Dallas is doing. By the way, Dan Quinn sticking around in Dallas. I think that's good for Dallas, even better for Mike McCarthy, because I don't think he would have survived there if Dan Quinn would have left. Smitty, what's going on, man? Smitty's in the house. Smitty Sports Machine. Y'all make sure, again, always check out his videos, sub them up if you get a chance. Anthony says, yo, bro, Steve, I was a big fan of Kyle Shanahan. He's actually a great coach, in my opinion. There is no right now in football. Past Bill Belichick is in a different stratosphere, obviously, because of his success. Andy Reid, Doug Peterson, maybe. And I say Doug Peterson because he got a chip. Sean McVay, John Harbaugh. Matter of fact, I'll even take it somewhere else. If for the non-Super Bowl winning coaches, who tops that list? I have to say Kyle Shanahan. I bet you he's the next one. Out of your Falcon Mind says, we had it Wednesday this week, but typically on Thursdays and Mondays during the season. And I thought it was a different day normally because I think Monday, okay, so out of your Falcon Mind on Thursdays and Mondays, y'all, during the season. And, of course, it's off season, so all of us, I'm pretty sure schedules will be a little bit interesting because there won't be a lot going on from a game standpoint. But I know everyone has off-season things, mocks, free agent stuff, and, of course, breaking news as it goes. So just make sure you subscribe and get the notifications so that way when the videos do hit, you guys can make sure y'all check them out. False Start said, it ain't just the Super Bowl for me. He follows that up with jumping us twice in the last two drafts. This is true. I do remember he did that. He did do that too. And I'm speaking for Out of Your Falcon Mind once, maybe twice a week this offseason, depending on what's going on with the team. Got one coming tomorrow, actually, last minute show. So tomorrow, make sure y'all check out of Your Falcon Mind. Billy Mills says, y'all got to take a look at Clayton Tune, QB from Houston. Boy got the numbers. Okay. All right. Jimmy says, if San Francisco wins it all, I'll hate Shanahan forever. Oh, man. Larry says, if Wilson, Carter, Williams are gone, then get the kid from Clemson. Yeah, I like him anyway because I think all of those guys will be gone. Sky Times in the house say them touchdowns were dropped on the first two games. Stop the madness. Are you talking about Desmond Ridder? What madness? Are you referring to Desmond Ridder? So you're saying Desmond Ridder is ready now and he's the man. There's no madness about that, brother, because you had plenty of opportunities to score as well. It's okay being a fan, but you got to show me more than that. And Anytime you have to resort to the drop touchdowns, that's very telling too. I mean, that's your opinion. That's cool, but it's not madness. It is what it is. That's 0 touchdowns. 0 touchdowns in 3.5 games. 3.5 games. 0 touchdowns. That's something more. And it's not all his fault. Let me make that clear. But let's not act like he was putting everything on the money the first 2 games. I was at the New Orleans game. I will tell you this. Until that last quarter, he was not very accurate. He was not. Larry says, I said build the trenches, but you have to hit on your picks. Rashaan Evans had 150 tackles. I think he needs to be re-up. Yeah, I would love to re-sign Rashaan up there. I definitely would. Rusty says, not sure I'm on board with assessing our team with a percentage. Look at Dallas. You get a player like MP, and it elevates everyone around him. Our team is 70% complete stuff is That's a good point about Michael Parsons because Van Der Esch was there. Lawrence was there. Now, Trayvon came as well, who kind of dropped off this year, if you ask me. But to your point, Rusty, most of those guys were there when they had the historically bad defense the year prior. Sometimes it does take that one person to elevate the rest of your team. Super good point. Michael said, what vet quarterback would you come in here to give rid of competition? Depending on how things work out, Jimmy G has a lot to prove. I hope he doesn't try to come and command like a lot of money. But he would be somebody that at least has been battle tested. He knows nobody's going to hand him the keys to a franchise. So maybe he's somebody that might be able to push. But I don't know. Jimmy G might still want to try to at least be a starter. So I don't know. Norman said, what's up, Norman? Said, never really thought about it like that, having to hit on 6 people supposed to one great player. And again, because when you think about it, when you start talking about the money we're going to have to pay folks, again, Deron Payne, if he's available, it's not going to be cheap. If you can get Bradbury away from the Eagles, he ain't going to be cheap. Marcus Peters, he's not going to be cheap. Those guys will be coming to Atlanta. And if you come to Atlanta without a established quarterback, if you're coming without an established quarterback, those guys won't hesitate because you're going to need it. You're going to definitely need it. Winston says, if you want to get better, you're going to have to spend money. People acting like we're just going to build through the draft and hit on every pick. We do it every time, Winston. Winston, you've been with us during our draft coverage over the last couple of years. And you know, everybody, when we're making the picks, everybody gets uber excited. Oh, man, that 6th-round pick is going to be our future for the next 3 or 4 years. And he's going whatever. And then they turn out to be Marlon Davidson, Sanat, Jalen Collins, guys that Tat McKinley. We all get excited draft night because draft night is the thought of your future. Everybody's going to pan out. Everybody's going to be 4 years, and it doesn't happen that way. And that's okay in the moment. That's okay. We all do that. Even if a free agent pick, how many people you think in Denver right now who were basically buying tickets to go to Arizona this year when they traded for Russell Wilson? And then those people from Seattle who probably gave up season tickets thinking that they weren't going to be anywhere, trying to recoup them after Geno had the year of his life. Geno is somebody that a lot of people have put on the list. I would just see if Geno does it one more year before I sign Geno. I'd sign Jimmy G before. if David Carr if he gets cut, you can't take that trade because the trade is gonna keep the contract pretty much intact. And I think his cap number, for all of you who are also worried about money, you're going to be paying Derek Carr about 80% of what you would be paying Lamar Jackson. So, take that into consideration. I don't know if Ridder is the answer, but remember Purdy was an afterthought until Lance and Jimmy G got hurt. That's Kyle Shanahan coaching, and the team built that team through the draft and free agency. And, it's funny you say that, and that's an extremely good point. Purdy learned from a very good coach. Sorry, folks. I don't hold all the Shanahan blew it and all of that stuff, and some of that might have validity, but the dude can coach. I do know that. That's the one thing I know. He can coach. Jimmy says Heineke, Garoppolo, or Bridgewater. Is Heineke a free agent? If he is, that'd be interesting because he's from the area. Jack, though, what's going on in the house, brother? Derek Carr again. If he's freed from that, if he's freed from that contract, yes. Millie Mills says, and we almost did get back, but Philly had something to say. You're right. People were talking about Millie. Had we played Minnesota, I think we would have beat Minnesota in Minnesota that year. That team for 16 and 17 was pretty solid. And that's why when people talk about Arthur Blank and, he's foolish to spend his money, but he's trying to get that feeling back. He was trying to get that feeling of going to the Super Bowl back. And we almost did make it. You're right. Larry says the Smith family was horrible. Arthur Blank is way better than them as owners of the team. Unfortunately, he hasn't surrounded himself with great football minds yet, but it's coming. And let's hope that this era of Terry Fontenot is what we need. I agree with you hard. And you were around long enough to remember, dude, when I was in the military, when they got rid of when I heard they wasn't gonna, I was just coming back, I think, from Germany when I got the news about no, I was still in Germany when I got the news that Prime was leaving, and I was so ticked off. As a matter of fact, it wasn't too long before that Dominique had just got traded. So I was saying to myself, man, I left Atlanta or left the States. We had Dominique in place on the number one team and traded him, and then Prime didn't want to pay him, just Atlanta sports. Mike, what's going on, Mike? How you doing, brother? You have a blessed day too, my friend. Hope you being safe on the road. Hellrail says drafting all defense sounds good, but I don't know. Yeah, and like I said, those are things that I've been seeing in post. So don't, Dixon Way said, let Matt Ryan go, people. The same coaches and GM are still here, and they shipped him out of here. There's no way Matt is coming back to the Falcons, but on a one-day contract to retire as a Falcon. I told people that all day. Charles agrees with you. Hellrail says, I wish we had a smarter fan base. You know what it is, man? And I don't blame a lot of the fan base, man. We're damaged. We're damaged. We're hurt. And this sounds super, this is going to be very unpopular. But man, I almost hated that we got that close to the Super Bowl, because I think there are people that think that was easy. All we have to do is go back to whatever we did in 2016. Dude, all the stars aligned. Remember how I was talking about earlier that Dallas had to lose that game to Green Bay for us to get the home game? Again, who knows how fate would have been dealt had Dallas won that game and we went to Dallas. Everything aligned perfectly. And a lot of times with these Super Bowls, sometimes the teams are that good. Sometimes they're lucky. New England, I think out of the 6 Super Bowls they won, I think only one was by more than a touchdown. I think. And I think that's the Rams. I think all the other Super Bowls were super close. And of course, ours going to overtime. Skytime says that was because of Doug Peterson. He rebuilt Philly after Chip Kelly screwed their team up. They built a defensive and offensive line. But I'm really talking about after Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson won the championship the 2017 season where y'all won it in 18. But I'm talking about after that. All those pieces that were there in 18 aren't there playing Sunday. You're right about Doug Peterson building what he did up to 18. But look what happened after 18. Y'all kept Nick Foles for a second before we shipped him off to Chicago. Then you got rid of Carson Wentz, and you had the real low season. You drafted Jalen Hurts and kind of rebuilt. So I think you're going back a little bit further, but I think your point, you're in the spirit of the same thing. My main reason why I think the Falcons are going to get Lamar is not only to sell tickets, but to have the best quarterback in our division, even if Brady comes back and Arthur Smith's job is on the line. I take it. I know that's my phrase for the day. I'll take it one step further. It is. Lamar Jackson comes to Atlanta. Lamar Jackson maybe next to Jalen Hurts, possibly the second most talented quarterback in the conference. Think about that for a quick second. Might be the second most talented quarterback in the conference. Tell me if I'm wrong. Charles B says Lamar Jackson 100% staying with the Rams. We'll see. And if he does, cool. But you don't know that. We don't know that. That's just your opinion at the moment. Shoot, he might. Yeah. We'll just play it like that. I'm trying to come down, folks, because I am wrapping up because I got to get going, trying to get to some folks who I have not talked to. And I think I hit everybody on the thing right now. But listen, I appreciate the love, everybody. Appreciate y'all hanging with on a lunchtime on Friday. Obviously, everyone will be glued in on Sunday to see how this thing turns out. Prediction from me. My rooting interest is in the other two teams, but because of injury status and probably a little bit of that home field, I'm going to go with Philadelphia winning a close game against San Francisco. I think at the end of the day, being at home to me is the biggest advantage Philadelphia going to have. They're actually pretty evenly matched. I think Jalen Hurts definitely is a tick, in my opinion, above what Brock Purdy is right now. But I do like Philly being at home. And if Patrick Mahomes comes out and he is jogging up and down the field and making cuts Saturday night, I would be quick to switch my pick. But right now, if he's not 100%, I think that just plays into Cincinnati's hands because I think Joe Burrow and the guys are 100%. So my official pick for this week is going to be Philadelphia to win the early game and Cincinnati by a nose in the second game. But make it clear to you, I am rooting for San Francisco and Kansas City. I am rooting for the rematch of a couple of years ago, that great Super Bowl that they had a couple of years ago when Mahomes got his first one. All right, folks, we'll do it again, man, next Friday. Until then, everybody have a great weekend. I'll pop in on Monday as usual to holler at you about the results of the championship games. Until then, everybody enjoy their weekend. Take care, be safe, and we'll holler at y'all later on. Thanks, y'all.